off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. This is another episode of, on last week's episode, we'll be covering the Book of Boba Fett. Quick note, if you haven't listened to our best TV shows of the year podcast, then go listen to that as well. You'll notice that Dee isn't here today. She's still stuck in a Sarlacc Pit. But in her place, I have Courtney. Courtney, how's it going?
Yeah, it's good. Dee's just hating. She said no Star Wars. So
she said no thanks.
No, yeah, I by birth obligation have to review and watch everything that's Star Wars related, or I'll be disowned by my parents.
Yeah, we kind of have no choice.
Their first date was a Star Wars movie, so right. I came here by means of Star Wars. So yeah, I'm obligated to be here, or I'll be fined.
Yes, that Courtney is our Star Wars consultant on the show. Yeah. She's but yeah, let's get into the episode. So what'd you think about the first episode?
I liked it. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I love the past bit. I think this is one of the things I was most excited about the Boba Fett series, because Boba Fett originally was a character created just to sell action figures. Mm-hmm. So obviously, if you've seen the original Star Wars series, you see that we didn't get much of Boba Fett, fell into the Sarlacc Pit. And then when we saw Mandalorian, it's like, how did Boba Fett get out? So I think it's great that we finally kind of see a believable way of how Boba Fett got out, but it doesn't take away how badass he is. Mm-hmm. It's like still very much, it's like reminding you, it's like, don't mess with Boba Fett at all. Not a fan of like the political, like the taking over Jabba the Hutt bit. I found that kind of a little bit on the boring side, but the past to me was like way more interesting. The jumping back and forth was so sudden at first. I was confused. I didn't know that we had jumped back, but then kind of when he had to go back into like the Darth Vader health pod, whatever that is, I was like, oh, okay, we're going back to the past. I kind of wish the whole episode would just have been the past, but that's my thoughts.
Yeah, so here's what I think about it. Kind of like you said, we know so little about Boba Fett. We kind of see him as like this guy who will basically like sell you out for like a few coins or whatever. But he's a badass at the same time. But this show has a big task at mm-hmm. hand, and if it does it right, it can do something cool where it like reveals like more about him. But I hope it doesn't do the thing, oh, Boba Fett really had this heart of gold the whole time. I hope it doesn't do that. So kind of like you said, seeing how he got out of the pit and looking into his past is a bit more interesting than some of the mm-hmm. present day stuff, because I kind of see where they're going with the present day stuff. Like it's kind of weird, but it's almost like they're doing like The Wire or The Sopranos out of space. Which is,
The Sopranos, it kind of gives that vibe. And I'm like, I like him being a morally gray character. Mm-hmm. I don't want him to just be like, oh, this horrible, horrible person. It's just like, with reason. So there's some moments in the episode where he saved people he didn't have to save, but it just kind of just made, if you think about it, made sense. I was like, you know what? He probably is doing that because it makes no sense for him to be by himself and he needs somewhere to go back to. So it's just like, he's very smart is what it tells me, but he's mm-hmm. also just like, he doesn't do it for he's not a psychopath. He's just very self-serving. He's morally gray, which in my mind, that's what I would want Boba Fett to be.
Right. And that's what I'm curious to see because going back into the past, they could do whatever they can with that. But the more they reveal about him, is it going to take this iconic character that is cool simply because we know little about him and kind of make him boring? That's my biggest concern. But before we talk about the way he got out of the Sarlacc Pit, I would like to play something really quick. I feel like I have to. Gosh. So let me play this.
Pan down from the twin suns of Tatooine. We are now close on the mouth of the Sarlacc Pit. After a beat, the gloved Mandalorian armor gauntlet of Boba Fett grabs onto the sand outside the Sarlacc Pit, and the feared bounty hunter pulls himself from the maw of the sand beast.
Okay, this is exactly...
And we realize that he survived his fall during the battle at Jabba's palace ship.
Isn't that him filibustering?
Yes, I think it's so cool.
I think they listed him as a writer in this episode. I think they basically took what happened from that. Like, that's one reason I love these shows. That's one reason I love these shows is I think the shows take themselves less seriously than the movies, and we get stuff like this. Like, and then they made him a writer on there. I think that's just so like when that happened, I was like, wait a second.
And for those of you who don't know, Patton Oswalt appeared on Parks and Rec and basically gave an improvised 10-minute filibuster that
fan fiction.
That combined the Star Wars universe and the MCU, and they used that bit to basically open the show. So Jon Favreau wrote this episode, so clearly like he did it as like a joke, but yeah, for them because I mean it is cool.
Patton Oswalt is like a huge Star Wars nerd, so I think that's really neat that they listed him as a writer. It's so great. I just think it's like that's one reason I love the shows over the movies is when they don't take themselves way too seriously, at all. So like that's just I love that.
Yeah,
so good.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad that clearly they're showing that they're going to follow the way of the. I mean, literally and figuratively, they're going to follow the way of the Mandalorian and kind of not be as beholden to like the Star Wars universe, and it just kind of like play with their toys in the sandbox a bit. So we kind of see that already. So you talked a bit about how you like the past first. So let's get into that, I guess. So clearly you like the explanation of how he survived, right?
It just makes sense. Like, I know they took that from Patton Oswalt. It just, to me, it makes the most sense. It doesn't go too loud out there, but also it's not like it's very logical. It's like, boom, boom, boom. Like, it just shows also, like, Boba Fett's not only just, like, this character and under a helmet, he's smart. He's very badass. He's very adept at fighting. So it's just, it kind of sets kind of a precedent for who he is as a person. And also just like but they didn't hold on it for too long either. So I'm kind of glad. I was worried they would make the whole first episode about it. And I think they spent an appropriate amount of time on it.
Yeah, because no matter what I feel about the present, which actually has like more to do as far as like impressing me, like I do find the balance of the time jumps to be appropriate. Like we stay with the past a little bit, then we go into the present, and then we have that flashback. I'm curious how they're gonna do that going forward, but I do think it was like a pretty good balance for this episode.
I just wish the first one they were a little bit more like, because at first I think I may have like looked away for a second, and I look back and I was like, oh wow, very quickly he's okay. But then I realized I was like, oh, it's a flashback. I'll have to rewatch because I literally just watched it like an hour ago. I'll have to rewatch and just see. I just feel like it should have been a little bit more of a clear transition, which is kind of the opposite of what my complaints normally are. But I think they didn't make it clear enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, because kind of how you say he drops one line that says, I'm having those dreams again. And yeah, if you miss that line, it's like, okay, where did... Like, okay, so is he okay?
Like, at least have him like asleep or something.
Yeah.
I'd rather him like go to sleep, and then he mentions the dreams at transitioning back or something. But or him seeing something that reminds him. But yeah, I don't have too many complaints other than that. I think I have the same concerns as you do, but I think they handled this first episode pretty well.
Yeah, and kind of now that I think of it, like you said, I hope that the past comes to him like in dreams while he's sleeping. I hope we're not gonna use the medical whatever as a plot device, like him
every single time. Yeah, like I hope that was a one-time thing. Like, but then that would also mean he'd have to be getting his ass whooped a lot,
which he did in this episode.
He did, but I think that also should be like like. I don't mind him getting his ass whooped because I also don't like it when characters are like supposed to be super badass and then like there's no flaws. I think they're pointing to me. It's kind of pointing to, I don't know if this is why Dee needs to be here too. If you saw Game of Thrones, it's kind of like how King Robert, not Robert, King, yeah. No, yeah, Robert. So he was a great soldier and warrior, but he was like the worst leader ever. So it's
Okay.
kind of like, how good are you versus, like, just because you're good at like battling and strategy doesn't mean you're good at politicking. Because she kind of kept trying to tell him, was like, well, Jabba never left, and
Yeah.
kind of had to lead on fear, and that's not who Boba is. However, it seems to not be working very well.
Yeah, that's actually a great transition because, yeah, I will say the interesting part about the present, like we know Boba Fett is this like super skilled, super resourceful, like bounty hunter, but yeah, he kind of sucks as a political boss because Fennec Shan by Ming Na Wen is like, yeah, you're kind of doing everything wrong to start off. Like you're walking in the middle of the street and people are just looking at you like, who the hell is this? That's not
Yeah, and they
how
didn't
you
even know.
rule.
Like, he's
Right.
not going to have respect at all. And I think she's thinking, it's like, well, maybe you can get into the respect with it for later, but they have to fear you first.
Right.
And then he got his ass beat.
He really got his ass beat.
And I was like, okay, he'll show himself, and then he got his ass beat. But I'm like, he's also like, I wonder if like he's supposed to be older in this. Like, how much is the time jump?
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. Like obviously, like having to like be trapped in the belly of a sand beast, climb out of that, and then have to basically escape the Tuscan Raiders. Like there's like a bit of a time in between that, and I think maybe I mean, obviously he kicks like the sand beast ass later in the episode, but maybe there's like a time where he just kind of like I'm guessing because he's not using these skills, he kind of loses them, and he's a bit rusty as far as like fighting goes. Like so,
Yeah, when you're
I'm thinking that's it.
politicking.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that's it. So I'm curious to explore that because yeah,
Maybe he need that humbling a little bit.
yeah, because he certainly got it. Yeah, he certainly got it.
I had to get put in the medical tank.
Medical tank again. But yeah,
I'm gonna just call it the Darth Vader tank.
basically what it is. Yeah. So where do you think we're going with the political stuff? Obviously, Jabba had lots of enemies, and he had lots of people putting money into his pockets. So where do you think we're going with the political crime boss angle here?
I don't see this going well for him. Just from what we know about who he is as a character from the Mandalorian, I just don't. Again, like there's political people, and then there's people who are warriors. Like seldom do you ever find anyone that's both, right? Like not everyone is Alexander the Great.
Right.
So, unless he just becomes this completely ruthless person, which you have to be a crime lord, I don't see it going well. Maybe he hands it off to, what's her name?
Finn Shand.
I have a feeling he may end up just like, this is your role, kind of thing.
Which that would be more interesting than like him being like ruling our compassion, and all of a sudden like it's like some happy planet and everyone's getting along. Like that's kind of boring to me. But if he like kind of set up to hand it off to her, like knowing that this place is so ruthless and that's how you have to be, but it's not that person anymore, or like maybe he never was that person, that would be more interesting to me. So
he just does it for like survival purposes.
Yeah, because obviously we know Fennec is she's an assassin. She's pretty badass when we meet her. So she kind of is like,
and he is too, but he's just a mercenary,
right?
So he's not actively killing people. It's not the same thing,
right?
So she's more ruthless than him.
Yeah, if we must distinguish between them.
I feel like if we distinguish, like a mercenary is not, I don't think, as ruthless as an assassin.
Yeah, like
just like one in the name, one literally has assassin, and the other like you could just be beating people up for money. Like it's bad things still, but it's not like your job is to kill somebody no matter what.
Yeah, because even when she's about to chase the guys down, he has to look at her. He's like, "Hey, like alive, please," because
and she still kills one of them.
Yeah. She's
just
like,
because
okay,
she said it was probably gonna be easier. Yeah.
Yeah. So who do you think sent those people?
What, the mayor probably? Because then he just pissed the mayor off.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
what
the
I'm thinking too.
mayor.
Yeah, because I did enjoy that scene where the mayor sends his courier basically, and the courier is like, yeah,
Hmm.
you totally misinterpreted everything the mayor is saying. He's not sending a tribute, and you should pay him actually. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how
He's
Boba
doing everything
responds to that.
wrong.
He's doing everything wrong. Like the mayor has to remind him, like, "Hey, this is my city, so you should pay. We don't know you. Not, I mean, we're not going to pay you. So what do you think this is?"
He just thinks it's easy money. Just like he walked in there and walked out and like literally had the coins in his helmet. You saw
Uh-huh.
how easily he lost that money.
Right.
Like, I mean, you saw how people, if you've seen the movies, how people feared Jabba. I don't think people would be taking those coins
No,
if those were
no,
Jabba's people.
not at all.
That'd be like, oh, here's your helmet. So like, she's got a point. So like, you need to start off with fear.
Yeah, you have to. So I'm curious to see how he like changes the way he leads because like same day like you get attacked in the middle of the street. So like your whole respect thing is already out the window. So I'm curious to see
Yeah,
how he
no,
switches up
as they're
his style.
talking about it.
Right, as they're talking about it, he
Like,
gets
I
attacked in the middle of the streets.
hilarious. As they're talking about it, just like whoop whoop. But I enjoyed it. I love that it's still the original Boba Fett.
Mhm.
I don't think anyone can be Boba Fett but him.
Right.
In my mind, he has to be Boba Fett. So, and because I don't know, because I do see where like he's got a little bit of that compassionate side, but it's supposed to have just been he watched his own father die, father
True.
clone. But and I think we saw that in like we saw that which movie was that? It was the second one. And we saw that kind of transition to a little boy to we saw his eyes turn cold.
Mhm.
So I think like they don't need to just undo that. Like anyone that watched their dad die like that, I would we've had our discussions about how the Jedi are actually bad. But
Yeah, pretty trash, yeah.
they're trash. They're just a bunch of like self-righteous monks.
Yeah,
We don't need to go on this tangent. This is a tangent for us both.
Yeah, you could hear me like this.
The third eye.
I had to stop myself. Yeah, but
We've
yeah,
done.
we've done this like ad nauseum. But
So if
but
he
no,
just like ends up being like, for instance, like that's one thing that would just piss me off is if he ends up just like, I want him to be morally gray, but if he just ends up like being like a friend to the Jedi or something, I'm gonna be so pissed.
like,
Because this is someone that should never.
yeah, like
He needs to be
think that
morally
would-
gray.
I think that would piss me off the most. Like if they went that route, and because I would be like, there's actually not
That's
every Star
canonically
Wars
against the character.
exactly not every Star Wars property needs like the Jedi.
Not every
shoehorned into it.
protagonist needs to be very
Right.
good.
Right. If we don't need that, like just stay away from it. Like there are ways to expand on this character to make him interesting. But yeah, so I did peep the I guess the reactions to this episode, and actually a lot of people don't seem to be on board, but I won't say I'm that strong. I actually see where it's going. I'm still interested.
Mhm.
And
What are they saying about it?
that as far as like the Star Wars shows go, like this may be like the I will say that
There's not that many Star Wars shows, first of all.
that's why I meant to say like as far as like the expanded Star Wars stuff goes, like this is probably the least interesting thing because we already have a Mandalorian, but this is still Boba Fett though. This could be something different, and that's my thing. Like if we're going to do this, I want it to be something like different than the Mandalorian.
I mean, because now that we have Luke Skywalker and Mandalorian, like this is probably the closest we can have to some non-Skywalker stuff, which is what we've been asking for.
That's what I care about mostly because that's where we get the original stories. That's where we get the new stuff. We don't have to have everything tied back to the past. This is where
I just want a show about some guy.
Yeah.
And the things he has to deal with without Jedi being involved, except for vaguely. So, like, you get to see some of the more normal life, as normal as Boba Fett is. But it's not, as long as there's not a Skywalker. I would be so pissed if somehow if they involve Luke Skywalker into this.
That would be so corny.
Because we did that. I mean, like, his involvement in Mandalorian made sense.
Right. Like, it makes perfect sense.
And it actually was great. But if it'll ruin that moment in The Mandalorian if they do that here. I'm not saying I think they will. That's my worst fear.
So I did read, I'm going to put this out now. It came from a pretty reputable source, but
oh god, if you're going to tell me, he's like, yeah, Luke Skywalker's going to pop up, I'm going to be so pissed.
No, because each of these shows are going to have a huge cameo reveal. That's just the nature of the beast. But this show was supposed to be Han Solo appearing, which okay.
I actually see that makes sense though.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It makes sense for who he is, because isn't he he's more, it's supposed to be morally gray character. So to me that makes sense. I'd be fine with that. But I wonder who they'd have. Because it's not going to be Harrison Ford, but there's that one actor that looks a lot like Harrison Ford. There's an actor that looks a lot and sounds a lot like young Harrison Ford.
And it's funny that they're going out their way to like not acknowledge the Solo movie at all, because I can't even think of the actor's name, but they're like, it's not going to be him. So yeah, they're probably going to,
what's his name? Like Jamie 3D, something.
Like they're going to like 3D face body, I bet.
But there's this one actor that looks so much like him. They wouldn't even have to 3D face. Hold on. And I want to show you, because I think he got big off of off of Vine, doing Harrison Ford impersonations. I'll have to find it. But that would be great if they got him, because it's like he looks a lot like him and some other 80s guy whose name I don't remember, But yeah, like if they got him, they wouldn't need to 3D face it. But yeah, I'm kind of over the 3D CGI on people's faces anyway.
Too.
Just get someone that looks like him. It looks so bad. It looks so bad. I'm gonna have to find this. It's gonna bother me. I know it's gonna bother me. But
So is it Anthony and Gruber? Because I'm looking at him, because there's like a picture of him like next to Harrison. I'm like seeing it.
I'm not sure. I gotta find it, but I have the face, which is essentially also Harrison Ford's face, but I can't remember this guy's name. But yeah. Oh, that's actually not a bad. That's a different casting thing for like a middle-aged Luke. The guy that played Jamie from Game of Thrones for a middle-aged, like not old Luke, but not young Luke. He looks like him. But that would make sense, right? That's unrelated. I just saw that like in the images, and I was like, "Oh wow, I didn't think." Anyway, I'll figure out this person's name, and I'm going to send a picture in the group chat, and you're going to be like, "Whoa!" And he sounds just like him.
Okay, yes, please. But to close out, because this is like the first episode of like The Mandalorian, there's very little to recap. So I guess talk about like whether you're still in or you're out, and also talk a bit about like what you hope to see as the series moves on.
A show would have to be so bad for me to be not in after the first episode.
Why the Last Man?
Why the Last Man? Like even theirs was like, I can fuck with the premise, but then after episode 3 is where I really decide. Now if they'd like brought in Luke Skywalker, I would have been like, no, goodbye. I'm sorry, but at least they didn't do that. But no, I hope that, like I said, I think we basically talked about it, that they keep him morally gray, and it ends up him, I can't do this or something like that. I would love that, but who knows? I don't want multiple seasons of him being bad at politicking.
Yeah, same here. I actually hope that which is, I'm like laughing as I say this out loud because we're talking about Disney. I'm hoping that this show just completes his arc, and then he goes off and he being Boba Fett just goes off and does like whatever he wants to. Maybe he leaves this empire to Fennec Shand, and he goes on, really like tries to like reclaim his life and do something he wants to do. I hope this isn't setting up more and more and more, because the more we expand this character, it's going to like take away from the mystique. So I do want to see us explore this character a little more here. Yeah, but ultimately, like let's let this
Maybe
go.
like
But
a cameo every now and again in Mandalorian.
right.
But he doesn't need his own show for like a long period of time. But this is also
No.
not a miniseries. So
Really, I thought it was.
is it a
Ooh, I thought it.
miniseries?
See, I thought that's how I promoted as a miniseries. At least I hope
Oh
so.
god. Let's find out. Oh, I remember
Ooh,
the guy's name. Google Jamie Costa. And then with Harrison Ford. And this dude looks just like him. But he mainly does Indiana Jones type stuff. But he
oh wait, this is the
literally
guy who did like the Robin Williams video too, right?
yes. Like
Okay,
I don't know
yeah.
how he looks like multiple people at the same time. But
Yeah,
he
okay.
also does a really mean Harrison Ford impression, and also looks a lot. I don't know how he looks like them both.
Yeah, how do you look like two people who look nothing
How do you
alike
look
at the
like two
same
people
time?
that look nothing alike? But do you see what I'm saying? And he's
Oh, I see
also
it.
apparently he's a very talented actor. If you've seen that Robin Williams bit,
hmm
so I think he'd be great.
I see it. Yeah, I see it.
But I hope check really quick if this is a miniseries or not. If this is not a miniseries, then I'm very unoptimistic or very pessimistic.
Let me see. I just googled this. This is a miniseries, and
It's not.
it's not
I
a
don't think it
full.
is. It didn't advertise it as a miniseries to me.
So it says it's reportedly a 4-part miniseries. That's all right. Here's what it's saying. Apparently, like this and the Ahsoka show, and there's going to
Mm-hmm.
be like basically
Oh,
there's going to be
Ahsoka,
like
I'm hype.
yeah, there's going to be different chapters like breaking off from like the Mandalorian, but those are going to be miniseries. So the Mandalorian is basically like the vehicle for like these.
So this is part of the 4-part. There's not going to be four
Yeah,
parts of
yeah.
Boba, right?
Right.
Okay.
That's what it says.
Woo!
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
good.
what I'm reading.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's where I was confused. Is it because it said 4-part, and I'm like, how is a miniseries 4 parts? But if it's different characters each time, that's perfect.
Let's hope they stay with that and don't do any more. Like this is all we need.
Because they can get all their money. They will not get any money like they've got Baby Yoda money.
No.
I'm sure
Don't
they will never let Baby Yoda go.
No.
We're never losing Baby Yoda, but then maybe that means we can let Boba go.
Yes.
Because the young kids, I don't think the young kids care as much about Boba Fett.
Yeah, that's
You
for
can
us and our parents. Yeah.
yeah, and then they can sell like Mando type stuff. So let Boba Fett go. Let Boba Fett go.
Yeah, that's where we're gonna be preaching with each recap. Let Boba Fett go, but yeah,
Let Boba
let
Fett go.
let Boba Fett go. But yeah, let us know what you think about the series. Whether
That's
you
the
like
name
it or
of this
not.
episode.
Yes, I'm actually gonna name that let Boba Fett go.
Go.
Yeah, but yeah, let us know what you think. But yeah,
Mhm.
we're dropping this episode a little like different than we normally would. So going forward, we're gonna drop these episodes likely the Friday after Boba Fett airs. So yeah, check on the podcast stream for the episode likely
in
on
our
Friday morning
socials.
and our social. So yeah, but yeah, that's all we have. And until next time.
Oh, I want to show off my hoodie. Hold on, it's a giant Pikachu.
Okay, that's because I was seeing the Thunderbolt.
So if you play Diamond and Pearl, this is the actual hoodie that you can wear in the game because I'm that kind of person. So anyway, I had to show that off.
Well, thanks for showing off your hoodie and thanks for joining us, people. Goodbye.
Bye.